What hasn't Corona canceled yet? Find out tonight on The Real Super Geeks.
We almost didn't do the enemy opener. And welcome to this week's episode of The Real Super Geeks. Thanks for the intro, Ross.
You're welcome.
We've got a lot to talk about today. 5 days ago, we had almost nothing to talk about, but a lot has changed since then. Let's start with some genre news first, and then we're going to dive into how things are being affected by the coronavirus and all of the social distancing regulations that are being passed in cities, states, and federal at the federal level.
Before we get too
every
deep
day
into
there's
it,
something new.
I want to introduce my lovely wife, Rei.
Please do. Hi, Rei.
She'll be joining us for a couple stories later on.
Excellent. We're looking forward to that and hearing from you. Let's go ahead and do our round robin hellos to everyone. Let's start, with Ross introduced Rei. And of course, Ross is the Eyebrows of Doom. How are you otherwise, Ross?
Pretty good overall. We, touching on what we'll be talking about later, we had our anniversary this past week. 5 years.
Indeed.
Pretty incredible.
Our viewers of our Make It So Picard after show heard a little bit about that yesterday.
Just a brief touch on the escape room.
And moving over to our mascot index, better known as Sun Seal. How are you doing, Sun?
I'm doing okay, considering my mother is one of those in the has to go to work genre. She works at a nursing home, so
ouch.
She's actually a nurse, so.
Well, I hope everything goes well there, and keep us posted.
I will.
Moving over to our newest co-host, Travis Linton, also one of the admins of Facebook's largest Star Trek group. How are you, Travis?
I'm not coughing as much as I was the other night.
That's good. We'd hate to think that you had the virus, although it's possible.
I think I'm all right. I'm not looking forward to working tomorrow, but I'm all right.
All right. Well, just stay away from old people.
By the way, Travis, mine's bigger.
Oh my God.
Mine's made of metal, so.
So far we have our mascot index, and apparently our official. Do we call it a fidget spinner? What's a generic term for that toy you're playing with?
Infinity Cube.
Picard does.
It's called the Infinity Cube.
Our
spinner's right here. I can't spin
our official cube then.
Just call it the artifact.
Ooh, I like it. Our official artifact. We're going to go with that one. Official artifact.
It looks like it.
And our stalwart producer, Justin Burton. How are you, Justin?
Doing quite well.
Excellent. Make sure you stay close to your mic. We want to hear you. All right, let's jump in. We've got lots to talk about. First, we're going to start off with some news, breaking news from today, which was the unexpected and somewhat secret release of the first trailer to the first Axanar short. So Axanar has been raising money to produce the 2 short films it's allowed to do under the terms of its settlement with CBS in that copyright infringement lawsuit that was now low these many years ago. And they've managed to scrabble together $50,000. They thought it would take a couple of weeks, a month. It actually took about 5 months. And now they're starting a $30,000, another $30,000 fundraiser. But to kick that effort off was the release tonight in a live stream from the Axanar YouTube channel of the trailer for the first Axanar short. How many of you were able to catch that before it went private? It went private, by the way. It's the other breaking news. Apparently, it's so exciting that it has to be kept secret. Justin, I know you watched it. Anybody else?
They can keep it private for as much as I care.
What was that, Travis?
I said I watched maybe a few seconds. I had to quit when someone in the live chat, because I just saw these guys sitting around a table, because when I clicked the link, I was like, oh, I might as well check out the trailer, and it was just a stream of Peters and his friends sitting around and talking. Someone in the live chat asked, is this canon? And he's like, is this canon? Well, it's canon to me. It's just, I was just like, oh God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is this canon? That just blows my mind.
And then, their moderators are calling it real Star Trek. They claiming this is real Star Trek. I'm like, I get sued again.
I don't know if Peters watches the show.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
Well, then I could probably say, like, I really don't care about this guy. I was rooting for him back in the day when Axanar was first making headlines. You know, this fan film that was getting a lot of attention. George Takei was endorsing it. And I was like, you know what? Cool. If they can make it work, all for it. Go get him, Tiger. You know, that kind of thing. And I didn't really pay it a hint of attention until you know, discovering, I guess it was when I first became admin of the Star Trek group, where people are starting to talk about it. It's like, oh, it's just a shit show over there. And I came over, found the X Monitor group, and I have fun with you guys there now and then. And I kind of caught myself up with it. And I think the thing that kind of validates it for me is the fact that I've just seen Peter's behavior and on social media, and I just cannot fathom where it comes from. I cannot fathom him going to shit posting of all things, calling people out for calling him out, and just like going out of his way to argue with so many people when this time should be devoted to making a film that should have been finished years ago. Ramble over.
That was a good ramble, though, and accurately surmises, I think, what many people's experience has been with Axanar. I would have loved to have shown you guys the trailer, but as soon as the live stream was over, they made it private. So
I was going to grab it.
Yeah, but I did get to watch it. I watched it 2 times. I think it's only about, maybe 45 seconds, Justin, about that?
Yeah, about 45 seconds. I'll never get back to my life.
45.
It's a very short.
Well, it's
trailer.
just a trailer, and a couple of things about it. There's hardly any speaking in it, speaking roles. It's all reaction shots.
I wonder why.
It does feature a little bit of footage shot at back in December in Atlanta, but otherwise it is a lot of I think there's some new CGI starship, battle kind of sequences that are cut in there. There is
work.
Well, at least give him this. At least give him this. At 45 seconds, he can't give anything away. That's the biggest complaint about trailers these days.
Well,
yeah, no, it doesn't give anything away. Although the broad sweep of the story for Axanar is pretty well known, thanks
then
to
it's not a trailer; it's a teaser.
Okay, sure, it's a teaser. I mean,
Because
strictly speaking,
even a trailer will give you at least a general hint of what the movie is about. If this 45-second clip doesn't even have a lot of speaking, doesn't give a general idea of what's going to happen, then you've got another teaser. That's exactly what this is, and that's why I'm laughing so hard, because the only thing it's telling me is they haven't gotten a lot of shooting done since the first big, boldly talked about shoot back a few months ago, whenever
that was in December.
And it probably tells me that we just saw a bunch of other bridge shaking shots. And
yep, there was bridge shaking, of course.
I figured much exactly what it was last time. So good on you, Peters. You showed the same thing, and you got people thinking it was brand new.
And here's the thing. He showed footage of Richard freaking Hatch. I don't know if anyone else caught that, but he had a feed segment that Richard Hatch in.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a trailer if it includes footage that can't be in the final version. But yes, it does invoke Richard Hatch. It also invokes Kate Vernon, who still has not acknowledged whether or not she's returning to make this, and Axanar has never acknowledged that she's returning. The one time they said it out loud, they withdrew that because I think it was false within an hour. But yeah, there's a lot of recycled footage from Prelude, some additional new CGI footage, a lot of reaction shots on the bridge, which is what they shot back in December. And what else, Justin?
They are claiming they are awarded #1 most viewed fan film.
Yeah.
That's still held by Horizon, I do believe.
Star Trek Horizon, yes.
Yep.
Yes, so
Fact,
there are different. Yeah. There are various dubious claims in the teaser, and one of them is that they're the #1 Star Trek fan film.
They can neither confirm nor deny that the spear is still sharp.
Just the tip. Just the tip.
Just the tip.
But the wielder is the dullest of all.
Indeed.
Oh.
Well, so we'll be trying to track down. Eventually, they'll make that footage public, and you'll all get to see it and judge for yourselves what is in the teaser. I'm not sure you'll see. There are a couple of good new exterior starship shots, I will say, but everything else is pretty much a rehash and using footage that isn't going to appear. So yes, there's the data on viewing data from YouTube on Prelude to Axanar versus Star Trek Horizon, and Star Trek Horizon is at 1 million. No, what is that? 11 million views, and Axanar is still only at 4. Is that right? 4 million.
4.3 million.
See if I can make this work here.
Well, I hate having to defend Peters here, but didn't they take down the Prelude film and somebody else put it back up?
Nope. That is the same one that's always been up.
Okie dokie. Because I could have sworn there was like us discussing that one of the things went down and then someone else put it back up, and then Peter said he was going to file a DMCA against him for putting it back up.
No, what you're thinking about is the one that I think either Robert Meyer put up or Terry McIntosh put up. And
yeah, there've been various other. I cannot tell what that says. It's out of focus.
I was trying to forget it. I was trying to say fake news to just the #1, #2 still image there, but
fake news.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think you might be thinking about either the Robert Meyer Burnett piece or the other piece that Justin mentioned. Could also be the Vulcan scene, because that was taken down and put back up. And then, of course, there was the famous fan edit of Prelude to Axanar, which tightened it up and also removed Alan Peters from the film. And he did get that. He did get that taken down with a DMCA. The person who put that up, who's anonymous or pseudonymous, didn't contest it, although he could have, and I think could have gotten away with it. But that's where it was left. I think we still have a version of it linked in Axamonitor. If you look up Prelude fan edit, you should be able to find it. Anyway, so we will continue to track that story as it goes ahead. They hope to raise $30,000 by May, I think, is when they're planning on shooting in Los Angeles. And they're still sounding like they're going straight ahead on that, even though everything else in Hollywood is shut down because of the coronavirus. So we'll see how likely that is. But fundraising is going
$30,000 to shoot in LA.
Yeah,
that's not going to get them very far.
It'll get them far enough.
I really wonder exactly.
Close enough.
I wonder exactly where he's going to shoot LA, because he was trying to reach out to.
There's plenty of places. I mean, assuming that they keep open for rental, but it's hard to know. But I'm sure the coronavirus is going to impact it. And of course, they want to premiere this at Comic-Con So they're hoping that they can finish shooting in May or June and then have it all put together and released
That's not
by
gonna
July.
happen. That's
That's
not
not
gonna
going to
happen.
happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
By the
And
way, didn't Gary Graham distance himself from Axnar completely?
that, every other month he's in, he's out, he's in, he's out. Until I actually see him on screen, I'm not going to leap to any conclusions. If they are shooting him in it, he will be shot at this LA shoot in May. So that's when they're doing all of the actors who require makeup and prosthetics. So that would include him in reprising his role of Saval. So we'll see whether or not that happens. I am highly doubtful it will happen on the timetable that he's talking about, because I think the coronavirus is going to affect everything in the industry and may even affect whether or not there is a Comic-Con in July. So keep your fingers crossed. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
and
that's one of the things I made a comment about in your live chat. And I went, oh yeah, we're going to
you need to talk closer to your microphone, Justin. I can't hear a thing you're saying.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I told him in the chat, I'm like, no, you're assuming that SDCC is still going to go on, and you're sitting there telling all.
Oh no, they've never said it was going to be officially at Comic-Con. They've never said that. They just let people.
They're saying it in chat.
Infer that. That's probably people saying it, but there's no way Comic-Con.
The Axnar crowd isn't exactly the most realistic group of folks.
Yeah, or reliable. So I wouldn't put too much stock in that.
Well, don't tell them that. It'll be funny.
Oh, I do tell them that all the time. That's why they love me so much. Okay, so speaking of the coronavirus, we'll go into our next segment, which is how coronavirus and how it's affecting the community writ large. And there's a lot that's been happening. Ross put it well at the beginning. What hasn't been closed in the past week as a result of the coronavirus and the recommended social distancing, which is keeping large gatherings of people. It's ended large gatherings of people, or suggested ending large gatherings of people. Although in Boston and New York, there was plenty of people out in bars celebrating in close contact with each other, St. Patrick's Day. So I think it'll take a little while before a lot of people actually recognize that this is a threat, and they're not making it any better by doing shit like that.
But it's just a bad flu. You'll recover, no problem.
I seen a video tonight of New Orleans with the police actually clearing the street.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more of that. What's that, Travis?
My roommate's attitude to it, like, I don't like getting personal in this area, but like, it's actually disturbing me just how very much he's brushing it off like it's no big deal. I mean, like, this is something that we have never seen in our lifetime, I don't think. And I mean, like, this thing is affecting everything. I'm not saying that we're all going to die. I'm not saying that we should go out.
No, most of us will be just fine.
But I mean, we should be vigilant. We should recognize that it is a very big threat, and we should take it seriously. I mean, like, earlier today, he was like, I'm going to go out and do my thing, and I'm going to shake so many hands. I'm like, are you, like, dude, like, this is not a joke.
You know, here's the way I look at things right now. You know, all my medical problems, you have to practice common sense whenever you deal with anything in public. Wash your hands. You know, if you've got a cough into your arm. If you're sick, stay the fuck home. You know, don't go out and about and mingle with the public if you're not feeling well.
Well, that assumes a certain mindfulness.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people we're talking about aren't exactly mindful of others.
No, and that's the problem. People today don't have common sense. So
that's the way it's always been, man. There have always been people like that. There always will be. We can do what we can to try and educate and encourage people, but at the same time, you're always going to have those folks who say, screw other people.
I'm
Or-
sorry
I'm
to
going to
say-
do what I'm going to do. I read a tweet today of this woman who made a point of saying that she'd gone out to a Red Robin for a hamburger and that the place, number one, was packed. And number two, she stayed there a long time in close contact and had a delicious hamburger. And she said, that's what I get to do as an American.
See, Travis is going to hate me because my stance is, look, the faster we get in people infected, the faster most of the population that will die from it dies, and then we will all have the immunity to it for the next time.
So you're in the boomer remover crowd?
Is it that? Because I don't think of it that way.
That's
It's
what it's
older
been
people
jokingly
who-
being called in certain
Yeah, because it's older
circles.
people who
And people
who
like
are
me.
most likely to
That's it.
die.
Yeah,
people like
and
me.
younger children who don't get vaccinated.
It's actually not affecting kids at all.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out why, but yeah, it doesn't affect kids very much
Well,
at
there's
all.
a couple cases out in
I do
California
take-
where newborns are being infected
Oof,
and passed because of it.
I hadn't heard that one.
I hadn't either. But in general,
My
the
Aunt Tony.
transmissions happening in older people. Well, in younger, people in their 20s and such can also spread it even if they don't become symptomatic themselves.
That's why
I've taken the position of Ebenezer Scrooge. If they're going to die, they better well bloody do it and decrease the surplus population.
Please.
Except, the U.S. does not have a surplus population. We're depopulating, and there's a lot of problems associated with that because you kind of need a lot of younger people paying into Social Security so that we older people will have Social Security. So surplus populations is not really a problem that we're dealing with in this country. But what we are dealing with are the realities of people who are now stuck at home, some of whom are working at home, some of whom are just passing time. Schools have closed. And we've seen different industries respond in different ways, including the internet service provider industry, as we see that AT&T, I think, was the first of the big ISPs to lift their broadband caps on their customers so that people can use the internet as much as they like.
and stop disconnects.
And what?
They're
And
stopping
stop
disconnects.
disconnects.
Oh, right, and they're not disconnecting people. The idea being they want to keep them at home. So if they can keep them watching movies or other things that are bandwidth hogging, gaming, I would assume.
Gaming's a big one.
Yeah, and that will keep. Those are people who hardly ever leave the house anyway, right, Ross?
Although streaming is a bigger strain on bandwidth.
Yeah. Well, apparently they have some extra that they're willing to put aside and not charge people outrageous.
Although if you're using
prices
something
for.
like Stadia, which is a game streaming service, yeah, that's going to be a big one.
There's also utility companies that are stopping disconnects for people right now. Utility companies are keeping people from getting shut off, but some cases they're turning people back on that have been disconnected. Same with water companies. I mean,
Yeah, I think now that we've raised or crossed the line into an official national emergency, those are the kinds of responses I would hope you'd see from some of the major utilities and major companies that can weather the financial storm a bit better than smaller ones, and of course people, families that are stuck at home trying to keep the virus from spreading as quickly as it otherwise would, which would be very quickly. So we've also seen sports teams, sports leagues cancel or delay their entire seasons.
Mhm. NBA, NFL, NCAA, European Soccer Organization, the XFL.
I'm really bummed about. I'm really bummed about Major League Baseball getting delayed. It's like, this is gonna sound silly, but it's a good time to be a Rockies fan. I mean, I'm more of a Mariners fan, but
I'm a Rockies fan.
Well, good on you. I actually bought a ticket to April 19th's game where they were going to be retiring the number of Larry Walker, who was, of course, just inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I was really looking forward to this and just did not see this coming at all. And I'm really hoping that I will still be able to get to go if they still go through with this, even if it is delayed. But like, I really hope we don't miss that out on that, because like that was going to be very fun. And I, of course, I'm a
Well,
little
I'm
bummed.
sure they'll reschedule it if they do have to cancel it. But I think a lot of things are going to be put on hold for weeks, if not months. Hopefully, not months. But that all
Sure.
depends on how effectively people adhere to the rules around social distancing. So
In,
I
in
am.
Can you
true,
imagine
Red-
if it's months? Oh my God, we'll
Oof.
in
all be going
true
crazy.
redneck fashion, NASCAR has said nobody can come to the events, but we're still holding them.
I
Or they
I am a
canceled
little-
this weekend.
can
Well-
only imagine the chaos of a nationwide cabin fever.
Oh my God.
yeah, I
It'll
mean,
be the purge.
It will.
I hate that movie.
That never seen it. I don't plan on seeing it. I am bummed.
I don't think
the,
you're missing anything.
Yeah, you're not.
I am bummed about the XFL. I was hoping that they would finish their
I am
first
too.
round, but
I was really excited for it because, we got a bum rap the first time around. And I was hoping this time around, it's looking like things are really looking good for it. So, I was actually quite excited for it. It's just one of the few sports I actually like. I'm normally a college football person or NASCAR. That's it. I don't really
Indeed.
follow
Well,
anything.
Well, they've issued
more
a statement saying
importantly-
that they're committed to finishing the season eventually and continuing next year.
We'll see. More importantly, the things that are being impacted that are of interest for geeks, especially real super ones, are the halt to production on many movies and television series that are shutting down completely for an unknown amount of time in order to prevent the spread of the coronavirus through the TV and film industry. NBC and CBS have stopped productions in the wake of the virus. Every day we hear about a new studio or a different motion picture that is shutting down for an unspecified amount of time. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that before you see things return. We'll, of course, keep watching it. The one thing that was of interest to me was that even the makers of Pokemon Go have created a way that does not require you to go outside for Pokemon Go.
That's right.
And
I
they
wish-
used to ban people for that. They used to ban people outright that even tried doing that.
Yeah, well, they're letting them now. I wish they had announced it or started it earlier this week, because I had to tramp around in the very cold rain here
Don't
with
play that game.
two
Time
11-year-olds.
Whoa, wait, time out. You still
What?
play the game?
No,
you
I
give
was with
me-
two 11-year-olds. They were.
no.
I was
no,
watching
no,
them.
That's not
They
what you
were.
said.
I wasn't playing.
You,
I'm too old for that.
So
Good
you-
Lord.
so you
Bullshit.
say-
Bullshit.
so
No such thing.
say-
I play Wizard Unite.
Yeah?
There's no age requirements. I'm playing games we love.
Well, I have games I love, just not Pokemon Go. But I'm happy to help kids do it, even if I have to get very wet and cold.
So
I'm
when
sorry.
Lots of Pokego.
when
I'm going
when
to poke a grief you every chance I get, Carlos.
You do that, Travis. Yes,
when,
son.
when Pokemon Go first came out, they had basically they had tall grass zones like parks, children's hospitals, that kind of stuff. These were areas that had a constant and higher spawn rate of Pokemon than.
She said spawn.
Okay. But had a higher chance of Pokemon showing up than in staying at home and all that kind of stuff. And that first winter for Pokemon Go, they actually did the same thing, sort of. They actually eliminated that concept entirely and allowed the spawn rates for at home use during the winter to increase. Because
remember that
people naturally stay indoors during winter.
Yes, and sometimes it's very natural because it's damn cold.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I remember that first year of Pokemon Go. It was pretty damn crazy. There was a Pokestop across the street from my place of work, and there were people lined up with blocks just trying to.
yes, it was quite a time so many
Ironically
years
enough-
ago. We're moving on, folks, to
Ironically
talking about the other aspects of the coronavirus, which is keeping people at home from work and working from home. And a lot of people are doing teleconferencing using the same software we use for this lovely podcast, Zoom. And it turns out, according to the Mashable website, that if they're using their corporate accounts for that, their employers can actually monitor their use and can tell, even if you step away from a meeting to like go to the bathroom, they have access to all kinds of metrics around your use of the software, including recordings of the chat. So like the little chat window we have open on our screens, so we can talk about people and they don't hear us.
We don't record the chats, by the way.
Yeah, they can actually keep those, record those, and listen to the audio and video recordings of each meeting. So, so some major privacy concerns there around employers keeping tabs on their employees at home.
There are a ton of options in the back end that you can it's up to the actual host what they enable and what they disable.
Yep.
You can set it to where, like, for instance, each and every one of you guys, you can share your screen, your desktop audio, or only one person can, or you can all do it at multiple different times. Or I can set it to where anyone not on video is displayed, or to change what it's very, very versatile. There's many layers of different settings, and it's very, very,
yes, Travis.
complex.
Travis?
And on that note, I will say good night.
I do have to say,
we've been tracking Travis.
I do have to say though, this does make sense for why certain co-hosts aren't here anymore.
They know we've been watching them.
Well, it's not just that. They were using corporate accounts. They've all been fired.
Oh, God, I hope not. Yipes, I hadn't even thought about that. Oh, Travis, you're back.
Yeah,
That was a
You
very
did it
dramatic
again.
exit. We really enjoyed it.
He turned on his VPN.
I'm on a secure channel now.
Oh, good. A secure
Like,
subspace
see,
channel.
another thing I can do, I can actually sit here if I want to. I can turn on and off video, turn on and off audio. I can boot you. If I wanted to.
So we're going to move on to our next topic, which is also coronavirus related, and that was news that came out at the annual shareholders meeting for the Walt Disney Company, and it was a weird show. These are
It was so weird.
you want to start us off, son?
Okay, so the annual shareholders meeting, you'd expect a shareholders meeting to talk about the future of certain products and questions about other products, or bringing back, well, like especially with Disney, talk about the Disney vault, unvaulting items, that kind of stuff. And this was just the weirdest. I mean, we could literally make this one shareholders meeting its own reality TV show, just how weird it was. Because like one of the first big things I saw about the shareholders meeting was that Disney had some of its shareholders actually start speaking out to Chapek, who'd just become CEO, asking about the ABC News scandals, like the Epstein scandal, and questioning ABC's lack of objectivity, which ABC is a Disney owned channel. And Chapek basically answered the question by not answering the question, sort of downplaying the whole situation. But at the same time, a group of shareholder nuns of all
Nuns?
things, yes,
Nuns.
decided to ask about why and put forth a motion to the shareholders as well about making sure Disney had the possibility of, or why Disney was a part of an organization that has even recently lobbied against paid sick leave, and put forth a motion to make sure Disney did do paid sick leave, which was weird. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the one that Disney actually went to the SEC and said, "Can we strike this from our shareholders meeting as a vote thing?" I'd have to reread the article again, but the SEC said, "No, you can't do that. If it's been tabled, it has to be voted on."
It's untabled, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, no. Disney wanted to remove it as a tabled vote, even though the shareholders were still putting forth the motion.
Mm-hmm.
But in all of this, there was a question about, again, stuff coming out of the Disney vault. And Bob Iger, who is still effectively the Disney CEO, admitted straight out that there would be movies in the Disney vault that would never again see the light of day, namely Song of the South.
That
makes
would be a
sense.
good one to keep hidden away.
Never-
That's not exactly a good movie.
But see, here's the thing. I know Zippity Doo-Dah. That's all I know of Song of the South.
I know that.
What context am I given that it is a racist film if all I've ever seen is Zippity Doo-Dah?
Well, that specific song is not racist, but
Well, that's not my point, you know?
what's your
Unless-
point?
Unless you played SNL original version that's only played at Disney's parties. Kudos if you get that reference.
Well, I can't say that I understand that reference, but no, the big point is, all I've ever seen of Song of the South is Zippity Doo-Dah. I keep hearing that everybody goes, it's racist, it's racist, it's racist. Well, you keep saying this and keep not having this thing around, it produces two things. You've made this thing a monster of that is some big, huge monster that nobody's ever seen, or at least I've not ever seen.
I've seen it.
And at the same time, you've also now made it a forbidden fruit.
Well, the thing about forbidden fruits, though, are people are still tempted to watch it, and it just doesn't exist anywhere for people to watch. So it's really not a forbidden fruit. I mean, have you detected any great call from people to be able to see Song of the South?
No, but then again, I'm the only one looking at this going, I just want to know what the hell this racism is that I'm supposed to not be liking about this movie. Only thing I've ever seen is Zippity Doo-Dah.
I understand, but the way that African Americans are portrayed in it is very stereotypical, and pretty insensitive to, it's not like, they're running around waving Confederate flags. It's not that kind of movie. But the stereotypes are really pretty insulting. So that's what you're missing. Of course, the stories that are in it, are stories about Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox. And in fact, you even see those as part of the Splash Mountain ride at Disney World and Disneyland. So that part of Song of the South survives at Splash Mountain. But yeah, that's why.
Wasn't that referenced in Star Trek Insurrection?
The Briar Patch, yes.
Yeah.
The Briar Patch is the part of space that most of Insurrection takes place in. So.
Oh, right, we're gonna use the Briar Patch the same way Brer Rabbit did.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually the center of Hidden Frontiers, Star Trek Hidden Frontiers, fan film
Deep
universe.
Space
Was the primary.
12,
Yep, Deep Space 12.
which was mentioned in Star Trek Picard the other day.
So Disney has also halted production of many of its own live-action TV and films, as well as closed down Disneyland first, and I think Disney World closed today or is about to close.
Disneyland closed first. Disney World would follow, and if I'm not mistaken, Disneyland Paris is also closing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So all things Disney apparently have the pause button on them. I have a friend I follow on Instagram who was posting all kinds of things from the last day of the last full day that Walt Disney World was open, and it wasn't packed, but there were a lot of people there and in a fairly close proximity to one another. So not much social distancing. Yeah, not much social distancing going on there.
I only care about the Mandalorian at this point. So
no, but maybe you'll care about Rei and her friends. We'll be talking about that later in the show.
Maybe.
I figured. I'm not stupid.
I know. You're just giving me a look.
Watch out, Ross.
Tired.
No, I'll be honest.
This is our standard back and forth, guys. You don't see it because she's not here, but this is normal.
We like her. She needs to be around more often.
I'll be completely honest. She's a much better Rei than the Star Wars one.
Whoever said that, I thank you.
You're welcome, sweetie.
We like you. You need to come around more often to keep Ross on his toes.
So
on a final note of Disney, they did release a statement saying
he's wrapped around it.
They did release a statement saying that all of their employees will continue to receive their salaries and average hourly wages during the shutdown.
Yes, that's very good of them. Yes, that is good.
And
a number of companies are doing that.
If you are finding yourself in the middle of the shutdown crisis, a lot of the states are offering unemployment benefits for those who are displaced and unable to go to work. If your job is not providing you with a salary, check your local state unemployment center and get set up so you're not
okay. Good advice.
If you'll indulge a brief tangent on the subject of Colonel Rei, I had something she wanted to talk about as far as something she's doing here in town.
Sure.
That we wanted to get the word around it and get other people involved in at least in spirit. So we've all seen how people are panic buying and emptying stores of toilet paper, soap, and oddly diapers and wipes as well.
Anything baby related.
A lot of stuff baby related. So you want to go ahead?
I don't care. It's up to you. I don't. Story's the story. You've got the bigger voice.
Okay. So what she started doing, she started asking people around town via Facebook whether they had everything they needed for their kids. There's a fair number of struggling parents in the area who came in just in time for all the places to be closed out. So she started taking from our own stock to help people who really needed it. And she's been continuing to poll people in town to see who needs stuff that she can go downtown to Des Moines, about an hour away, and bring stuff back when she comes home from work. They'd reimburse her at cost. So, and we've been gradually reaching out further and further out over the course of the evening, and people have offered to help. People in different towns are picking up the idea and doing the same thing. So
that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I just want to say, look out for your neighbors in times like this. Yes, we got to be socially distant, but that doesn't mean that we can't help each other when we need it. And times like this, we definitely need it.
We can be very helpful even at 6 feet apart. So
yes,
and it's a nice big middle finger to those who were looking to directly profit from this pandemic.
Yes,
no kidding.
As much as I hate Amazon, as much as I think Amazon is the devil, and I feel dirty for
they're at least the devil we know, right?
Like I do give them and eBay a massive thumbs up for shutting down so many of those posts of people who were selling hand sanitizer for like $80 a bottle, or all that. Like, good on them, because like price gouging at a time like this is just, it's just, that is the devil. That is, oh man.
Here's the bad thing: the local stores are doing it just a little bit too, because I got a gallon of distilled water, and they're only normally about $1, if that. And I had to pay almost $5 for a gallon of distilled water today. It's absolutely insane right now.
Well, right now, some of the Facebook groups for just our town, they are banning anything that's being sold at a higher price. And then they're actually going to the police and reporting these people so they can get arrested because it is considered a felony.
Good.
A lot of the article I read, there's a lot of people who actually face potential legal trouble because of what they've done. Because a lot of this stuff, a lot of the price gouging that they're doing is actually very illegal in a lot of areas.
And then the store that I work for, they have a limit of 2 per product per day.
That's good. I'm glad that these stores putting in these limits. They should have actually done it a lot sooner. But then again, you would have thought people would have been, not doing what they've been doing, and it kind of get caught there. I think it caught the stores off guard. It caught everybody off guard.
In an amusing tangent on these kinds of stories, I was at the grocery store last night here in Seattle, coronavirus central, and the store's still pretty well stocked, except for certain aisles, which are devoid of things. So, which I expected. So I went to the meat section, and at the end of the aisle that I was approaching the meat section from, it looked completely and utterly empty until I got to the meat section, and I realized that what was empty was all of the organic meat, all gone. If you look at the not organic meat,
well, I mean,
plenty of it's
Seattle.
still there.
Really? I mean, it's Seattle. It's Seattle.
It's Seattle.
In Iowa too. They did it in Iowa too.
And it's not just the organic meat; it's anything in our market fresh section.
Yep.
And then all of our organic produce is wiped out.
It's the opposite here in Arkansas.
Isn't it always though?
The one thing I don't understand is we have a vegan section, right? And in this vegan section
in Arkansas,
yeah.
I'm kidding.
We have Walmart.
You'd be surprised.
We're literally the homeland of Walmart. Okay,
indeed you are.
So in the vegan section, which is in the produce aisle, is the tofu and all that kind of stuff. But egg roll wrappers, the packages that they sell in Walmart literally says contain eggs, and it's in the vegan section. I don't understand that.
It's Walmart.
I guess they wanted to place it next to the tofu.
I guess. I even went into the yogurt section. Same thing. All the regular yogurt, plenty of it. All the probiotic yogurt, empty.
That's why they need toilet paper.
Well put.
I will say this: there was
TP for your bunghole.
we had yogurt. There were no eggs at all whatsoever.
Oh, we have plenty of eggs. In fact, we had eggs on sale for 99 cents at Safeway today.
God, I need to take a cheap flight to Seattle to buy eggs and meat. Jesus.
It's better than a slow boat to China. Okay, so let's move to our next section, which is about Minecraft. Came across this story. I think you did too, Ross.
Yes.
News that there is a library, a virtual library in Minecraft that Minecraft is one of the few things that totalitarian countries do not prevent from their people from getting access to. And so there's a group of journalists who have put together this virtual library of reporting from all of these countries where people can't even read the stories their own journalists are producing about what's going on in their countries. And they can enter this library through Minecraft and actually read this reporting. And it's kind of amazing. Ross, you want to chime in on this one?
Well, first thing I got to say is that the build for this library is absolutely gorgeous. It reminds me a little bit of the Library of Congress,
Hmm.
with perhaps a hint or two of Alexandria.
Yeah, I
It's
noticed that too.
it's an absolutely beautiful build, and Minecraft itself is probably one of the most unobtrusive things you'll ever find. There's very little things that you'd find either offensive or objectionable.
Except the amount of RAM it uses just to
Oh,
exist.
yeah. And time. You start playing at 8 a.m. Think I'll get a few hours in. Next thing you know, it's dawn of the next day.
Yes, I've seen
Uh,
that. I've
but
seen
it's
the.
it's such a wonderful idea. And sadly, if since it is public now, it might result in Minecraft being banned in those
Yeah,
areas.
which would be a
But
shame because, I mean, Minecraft is a pretty cool game, and for a lot of people in those countries, is like one of the few things that they can just really enjoy.
yeah, and I'm looking at some of the names that are contributed to this library. Probably one of the most famous one, Jamal Khashoggi, who was brutally murdered
Mhm.
last year. Yulia Berenzovskaya, Skaya, um, Yen Van Dyke, Javier Valdez, Madamasser, a lot of very notable, very well-known opponents of oppression and censorship. So,
So its official name is the Uncensored Library,
yeah.
and Reporters Without Borders is the organization that saw it putting together. I was trying to share um, part of their website, and it's not loading. So actually, I don't have Minecraft installed either. That's probably the reason why. If any of you do, oh, good, they have a film. Cool. It's loaded. So hang on a second, and I will share that with you
Okay, so
all.
how long it took the website to load for me is like how long it takes Minecraft to load.
Okay, come on there, mister.
I think I'm the only person on the planet that doesn't play Minecraft.
I actually don't play it, but not because I wouldn't like it, just because. Is it showing up now?
Nope.
Nope, I'm getting a loading screen.
It just says Carlos Pachaza has. Oh, there it
Oh,
goes.
there we go.
There we go. It's beautiful, actually.
It is.
I'm super impressed with it.
You can do some amazing things in Minecraft.
Minecraft is just a hardcore positive feedback loop.
Yeah, yeah.
I've
It's pretty.
seen I've
Go
seen
ahead,
people
Ross.
program mobile phones in Minecraft and actually make a call within the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, someone set up all the mechanics to actually stream YouTube in a Minecraft from YouTube.
Oh, I've heard about that. I've heard about that.
My question is, why aren't these guys finding the cure to cancer or something?
They
It's a
are.
little more involved than putting blocks together.
Did we include that in this week's?
It is in the Trello, a link to the Uncensored
No,
Library.
no, not that.
What?
You can side note related. I got to find the site. I'll link it in the Facebook group and on Twitter later. But you can. There's a site that allows you to use the computing power of your PC, your graphics card, to help map the genome of the coronavirus.
Oh, wow.
They included it in the PS3 for cancer research, and I had that thing on all the time.
Yeah, it's called Folding at Home, not the at symbol, at Folding at Home.
Excellent. Well, that was a uplifting story this week that I enjoyed. And speaking of uplifting, or maybe it's downlifting, we moved to the long-promised discussion about the end of Doctor Who season 12 and its upending the backstory of the Doctor. And I did my homework son. So I'm ready to go. You get first crack at this, though. About what we learned in the season 12 finale of Doctor Who, and
discussion, something I have no interest in talking about.
Okay.
let Ray know that she's up next. So
She'll be back in a second.
Okay.
Um.
So, son, you want to jump in?
So okay, I still don't know who the Cyberman guy is, and I'm not sure if that's supposed to be important or not. Or that was ever supposed to be important. Who the this was okay. So Chibnall said that this season would have a story arc. Well, I'm sorry, sir. It's about the same story arc as we got out of the Tooth Fairy Man from last season.
Who's Fairy Man?
Yeah, Tim Shaw is what they called him. But yeah, he was literally a dude whose face was nothing but teeth.
Ugh.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that was pretty gross.
But the all of this arc, quote unquote, was literally the last 3 seasons or the last 3 episodes of this season, and I'm like, you failed again, sir. You said that this would be a story arc over the entire season, and like Tim Shaw was a bigger story arc because it was the 1 or 2 at the beginning, and then the 1 episode in the middle, and then like the thing at the end. And this, even with it changing the Doctor Who story, which is kind of weird to me, it just okay. It's a lone Cyberman. Okay, I don't know who he is. He's talking about taking over the world. Okay, that's typical Cyberman stuff. Apparently, he's still partly organic, like most Cybermen, but he doesn't have the emotional restraints that the others do. Okay, that's a little weird. Now he's upgrading the Cyberman to all Cybermen, so they're all...
Oh, he canceled that. He canceled that because of the deal with the Master.
Oh, yeah, but he was still upgrading them before he even got to that.
Right, I know. But once the Master gave him the deal,
Right.
They started going to that, which was to use the bodies of
the Time Lords to
the Time Lords whom the Master had killed to make regenerative Cybermen who would regenerate every time they were killed.
Which
So Necrons.
I
Sorry,
mean,
40K reference. I know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
but see, here's the thing. I like of the new.
That's
Cyberman,
what I'm talking about.
Of the new Cyberman, I like the spikes on the shoulder pauldrons, on the pauldrons. That's about it. That's all I liked of the new Cyberman. And then the Time Lord thing happened, and I'm like, really? I'm sorry. Whoever's writing this version of the Master, stop. Just stop. For the love of God.
Think of it as Cylon, but with the ability to regenerate.
Wait.
I mean,
well, old school Cylons maybe, but
Yeah.
Yeah. So arguably you could say that Galactus stole it from Doctor Who because they were introduced way earlier. But anyway, to me, the intriguing part of the last episode was really about the origin of the Doctor. And this is spoiler territory if you haven't watched it. But so heed the spoiler warning. We learned that the Doctor we know is not all the Doctor that's known. It turns out that the Doctor actually originated from another dimension, another universe, and was known as a timeless child, and had actually had been found by a space traveler from Gallifrey, who discovered by accident when the child was accidentally killed that it regenerated, and sought to find out what in its genetic code allowed it to regenerate, found it after who knows how many regenerations as the child kept dying and being, regenerated. And these are all lives that the doctor had wiped from her memory. So she's actually lived many more lives than the doctor ever thought. And it kind of freaked her out.
Hold up.
What?
You're saying that the reasons that the Time Lords regenerate is because of the Doctor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
They genetically manipulated the who we know of now as the Doctor. They literally extracted her DNA and made the Time Lords out of Gallifreyans.
So now the Doctor is the progenitor of the Time Lords.
Mm.
Well, the doctor is the progenitor of the Time Lord's ability to regenerate.
Well, no, the Time Lords as an organization, period, exists solely because of the Doctor.
Sure.
Otherwise, they would have been normal Gallifreyans, just like exist already on Gallifrey.
Sure,
And
but the
it turns out that
Gallifreyans discovered time travel on their own. I don't think the doctor found it for him.
No, that wasn't the story. That was not the story that was told.
I recall seeing it where that's exactly what they said.
I
was,
thought they were trying to
in
prove
time-
that humans were Gallifreyans.
No. They said in time they developed the ability not only to travel through space but also through time.
Right,
Those were exactly the words that
after becoming
were saying.
Time Lords. They
They
created an
became
upper.
Time Lords because they discovered how to.
Well,
What sense does it make to be Time Lords if you don't know how to go through time yet?
They created an upper echelon society that had the regeneration, right?
Yes, correct.
That made themselves part timeless, and they deemed themselves Time Lords, not because they could manipulate time itself,
But because they lived
time
through
travel, but because they could live multiple lifetimes.
Mhm. Okay, that
Essentially
makes sense.
making themselves immortal.
Yeah.
I do have a problem with this.
Yes.
The problem I have with this is it undercuts the impact of Matt Smith's final regeneration. When he's old Matt Smith and he's back talking to the Daleks and stuff, and the Time Lords give him, quote unquote, a new set of regenerations.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes that less impactful.
It makes everything about the Doctor up to that point less impactful.
I'm
And
not sure I agree with that. I mean, because at that point, I mean, the Time Lords weren't good guys, or at least they haven't been since the reboot. So they're granting him another regeneration. It wasn't, given that we don't like them to begin with, and it wasn't really anything they had to give. He did innately have the ability to regenerate. He just did. They just claimed credit for it.
So that means the Doctor's actual origins is not of Gallifrey, but some other dimension.
Another dimension.
So
and
I'm guessing
a different planet. She went to I forget her name, Tenoktiu, something like that. She traveled to a distant planet where this boundary existed between dimensions and universes, and that's where she discovered the child and brought the child back to Gallifrey.
the child being her.
Being the Doctor.
So
As the
she
child.
came full circle.
Who?
The Doctor.
No, the first explorer was Gallifreyan.
Okay.
Yeah.
She
A native
left
Gallifreyan.
She left Gallifrey in a rickety rocket to explore space. And she came across this planet that was the boundary of times and dimensions. And suddenly appearing before her was a child from nowhere. An infant, an abandoned, orphaned child that she adopted and then found out was this regenerative thing. So she then spent the remainder of her life studying this regeneration, to the point that when she was starting to die, she actually began experimenting on herself with the timeless child's DNA, and she became herself the first Gallifreyan to regenerate using the Doctor's regeneration abilities.
And at some point, the Doctor becomes, in one of his incarnations, becomes part of a secret organization within the upper echelon of the Gallifreyans
okay.
called the Division that intervened when necessary in matters temporal, but completely undercover and secret, which led at some point to the Doctor's predecessor. I mean, it's one of the lives that he has forgotten. She's forgotten. That's when they wiped the Doctor's mind, and so at that point, the Doctor wasn't known as the Doctor yet. It just was a Gallifreyan who was part of the Division.
So the fugitive Doctor is one of these previously unknown incarnations.
Yes.
Except that Doctor themselves refer to themselves as the Doctor.
Yes.
Now I know how my girlfriend feels when I talk about Star Trek. I have no idea what you're talking about. You guys can have this show. I will say this, however. You did your homework, Carlos. Have a cookie.
Oh, I wish I could have a cookie. Give me.
Do not promise cookies when you have no cookies.
You evil.
Thank you, Ross. I appreciate it.
I silence you. I silence you.
I did notice one thing, and that's because I've been watching Pluto TV do the classic Who.
Mm-hmm.
This thing of the Division, it seems like it may be a rebranding of classic Who's CIA, the Celestial Intervention Agency. It was a Time Lord organization for...
Yeah, it's probably a rebrand because CIA today would just be, it's campy. So, but I think you're right. I'd heard about that. So, so where does that leave you as we look ahead to the 13th, hopefully lucky season of Doctor Who? Are you optimistic? Are you
no
skeptical, or are you just negative?
At this point, I'm leaning more negative than skeptical because you've had two. Okay, I get it. It can take 2 or 3 seasons to find a groove, but come on, this shortening of the seasons of Doctor Who is supposed to make it better, and because you're supposed to have all this better storytelling for this new age of current year, whatever the hell somebody wants to argue about. I'm sorry, these 2 seasons have just been rather mediocre. You've had some standout episodes by themselves, but
and on the whole, we liked the companions in these last 2 seasons, although we're losing 2 of them, right? the older guy and I forget what his name is. Ryan is his adopted or step grandson. The 2 of them are leaving. Yaz is staying, but I don't know what the circumstances are going to be under which they end up departing.
Here's the thing, I gotta agree with Son on this. Achievement is bad. He'll throw one up in editing. They've had 2 seasons here, and they've only had a few good stories. But the actors, if the stories would have been better, they had the right actors. From the Doctor on down, if they would have just had a better story and a better writer, it would have been so much better, I think. But I'm just not optimistic for another season of the same old. It just doesn't.
I'm hoping
when it's back.
I'm hoping that something will happen in which they, are realizing that they put the Doctor into a downspin, and they need to do something to change that. And I hope that message gets through.
If anything, at least you guys had some episodes that you enjoyed, and that in and of itself should be a good thing, because let's face it, there are shows out there that have episodes that are just not enjoyable.
Yeah, agreed. I can't say I regret watching the show, but I would probably put myself as skeptical, trending hopeful. I tend to be an optimist, so that's where I stand on it.
my joke.
Sorry.
But see, here's the thing. In all of, 5 to 10 minutes of screen time, the Fugitive Doctor has made a much better Doctor than Jodie Whittaker's writing has almost this whole season.
Yeah, I love that actor. She's fantastic, and
It's not
that's
for me. And that's the thing. A lot of people are going to go, but well, that's anti-woman, and I'm like,
what?
what? What? No. It has
How is that
nothing to do with.
anti-woman?
It has nothing to do with Jodie Whittaker being a woman. It has nothing to do with the Fugitive Doctor or Ruth being a black lady or anything like that. It has everything to do with it. That Doctor's writing was better than what.
Well,
we've
yeah,
gotten
but
for
I mean,
Jodie Whittaker.
arguably, to be fair, she didn't have a lot. What there was of it was really good, yes, but Jodie Whittaker.
I would be happy to see the next generation cycle that we get the Fugitive Doctor as the main Doctor. That would be kind of cool.
Probably won't happen. She's from the past.
I have to agree with your friend Carlos that we'll get one more season of Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall, and then they'll brush them aside and create a whole new regeneration and a whole new showrunner, and
Probably
carry on.
And then everything will change again.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's the nature of the intrinsic nature of Doctor Who. So thank God. But yeah, I think it was an experiment that they should have seen at the end of her first season that it was not working, and they made a few tweaks, but didn't really change the overall problem with the show, which is, the writing forced to be episodic just lost any sense of urgency that previous incarnations of Doctor Who have had. So that's a shame. Hopefully we'll learn from it.
Star Trek Picard is done. They need to go back to story arc, because episodic TV it isn't for something like this. It doesn't work anymore.
Indeed. Well, Ross, you want to call Rei back because it's time to talk escape room.
There she is.
Yep, she's right there. So, as I said at the beginning of the show, we had our 5th anniversary this past Friday. Oddly enough, our first date was on Friday the 13th, and what was this Friday? Friday the 13th. So a fun bit of synchronicity. We wanted to do something fun and different that you don't really think of when you think anniversary. So she floated the idea of an escape room, and we started looking. And the one we eventually decided on was one of Breakout Games' rooms called The Kidnapping. And the thing that really stuck out about this room is that it starts out with each of the players being blindfolded and handcuffed.
How romantic.
Kinky.
Oh, yeah. In fact, it was what she was most excited about.
Do I
Did Ross complain about the handcuffs?
I didn't complain about handcuffs. So we show up, we chat a bit with the people out front, and then we get escorted into the room. They make sure that we understand and are prepared for the fact that we are going to be blindfolded and handcuffed. They lead us in, hook us up. There's a video that plays with the ominous voice of our kidnapper who's holding us there, giving us a chance to escape. The bell
ominous
begins.
is your voice, Ross?
No, it was not my voice.
Oh, no, I mean, but as ominous as your voice.
A bit more ominous and gravelly, the kind of thing you'd expect from a stereotypical movie psychopath.
Maybe it was Doomcock.
No, it was not Doomcock. I would have laughed my ass.
Don't invoke that name on this show.
Anyway, so no sooner did I pull my blindfold off and take stock of the room than I look over and see her just slipping right out of the cuffs. This woman has talents and skills that continue to surprise me.
Indeed.
You want to talk a bit about your preparation?
She can dislocate her thumbs.
No, I mean for the room itself. For the experience. Getting ready for the escape room.
All I did, what? I just
what did you do to get ready?
In the days ahead of time, Ray.
I didn't get ready.
You were watching videos.
Oh, yeah, how to, get through the clues as quickly as possible without frigging out.
It was a really fun experience. We actually made pretty good progress. We did have to ask for hints about 4 or 5 times throughout it. There were a couple puzzles that were a little odd, and it actually took the longest puzzle was finding the key for the handcuffs because it blended in with the wall perfectly.
Yeah, I was on my knees, like groping the fucking wall. Maybe there was like something hidden, and then like right there, right between my eyes, there's a fucking key. I'm like, God damn it.
Meanwhile, I'm just standing there, still handcuffed with about 3 feet or so of chain, trying to feel around the table, wondering where the key
Ooh,
was.
kinky.
Yeah.
Well, so who was
win.
kidnapped and did you find them?
We were kidnapped.
Oh, you were the. Oh, right, you were.
Yeah, we
right.
were kidnapped, and our goal was to escape with the clues that the previous victims were there.
Well, and the kidnapper. He left a bunch of stuff behind, giving us a sporting chance of escaping within an hour's time.
I see. Before he returned from whatever errand he went off, devious errand he went off to perform.
Yeah, with the plans to brutally kill us.
I have to go stock up for the coronavirus.
Yeah, he was probably going out to stock up on toilet paper or hand sanitizer.
It was a really fun experience. We as we progressed through, we worked pretty well as a team, I'd say.
Because I'm good at giving orders.
You said giving orders, right, Ray? You said giving orders?
And I'm good at puzzles.
There you go.
We were very close to actually completing the room. We were on the last clue, which was translating a recording of Morse code, but we didn't have enough time to get through it all. It was down to the wire. Another 5 minutes or so, and we would have gotten it. When the lady came in, our game master came in to kind of walk us through the parts that we missed, she said, for a couple, we did a very good job.
Oh, that's right, because usually it's bigger groups, right?
Yeah, but I also took it to mean that most couples end up bickering a lot.
Oh, oh, wow. Okay, well, that's good. See, what a perfect thing to do on your anniversary then, to show the strength of your relationship.
They even wrote "Happy Anniversary" on the whiteboard inside, which she didn't realize was meant for us until the very end because she was in tunnel vision mode.
Oh yeah, it was like slip, let's get out of here.
Yeah, I'm able to slip out of handcuffs with no problem.
Yeah, I love that you were the one who got out of the handcuffs, Ray.
Well, I've got big man hands here.
Yes, you do. Yes,
she's got little dainty, well manicured.
It's just a matter of dislocating your thumbs.
Just like you said, son.
Dislocate your thumb, and that's all you gotta do.
It's not that hard.
Okay, Oliver.
Oh, ew.
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't?
Anymore.
Oh, great. Okay.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I love everything about this. She is so like, okay, make her the new Rey in Star Wars because this is just awesome.
But yeah, if you get the chance to try an escape room sometime, I highly recommend it. We're definitely going back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, we'll try. They've got about 5 different rooms there. And there are also 2 other games companies in Des Moines that have escape rooms, so there's plenty of opportunity.
Excellent.
They have a few here. One of them got a pirate theme that's supposed to be really good that a lot of people talk about.
Apparently, the old Star Trek Continues sets in Georgia are being moved to Orlando, Florida, and being converted into an escape room there called Galaxy Adventures.
We talked about that a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, we did a little bit.
Yeah, that was one of the things on the disclaimer. You don't need to renovate. There's nothing hidden behind walls that you can't get to.
My guess is that's happened.
Yeah.
Hence the warning. Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that experience. And if you go again, give us an update.
Sure thing.
Okay, let's move on just to a quick, brief commentary on the end of HBO's Outsider series. The series finale, season finale, was last Sunday, and apparently it was has seen the highest ratings for a dramatic series that HBO has had in a while. It got better ratings than even Watchmen did, and Watchmen was considered a pretty successful series. They're not at Game of Thrones level, but they're doing better than expected. And in fact, the ratings apparently kept climbing week after week after week, which is the opposite of what happens with a lot of shows where they start strong and then just sort of whittle down as the season progresses. And so it's based, as you may recall, on a Stephen King book about a investigator, an African-American woman who's a crime investigator who is on the spectrum. And so she's able to put things together that other people aren't able to put together in terms of clues. And they're trying to discover who killed, who's behind a string of killings from New York down into the South. And it turns out to be this evil spirit called El Cuco. And who of course is able to thrive because most people don't believe in evil spirits. So anyway, so it's about them tracking it down. And in this episode, there was a big, climactic confrontation. And that happens, I don't know, around halfway through the episode. And then it's just like, and it didn't even seem like that big a confrontation to me. It's like, oh, you went into the cave and killed him. All right. Anyway, I like the series overall. The finale, I think, left me a little cold, but apparently because it did so well, they may make another season of it, although it won't be written. I mean, they exhausted the source material, Stephen King's original novel, and whether they can keep that up without any source material, we have yet to see. And we know that didn't work out so well with Game of Thrones, but if you get a chance, I suggest you do check out The Outsider. It is actually a pretty well made show. It keeps just enough of the Stephen King stuff to appease Stephen King fans, but also does its own thing that makes it pretty enjoyable for regular viewers like myself.
As someone who watched the Game of Thrones, I sure hope they have a better team that can make sure that what happened to Game of Thrones does not happen in this show.
Yeah, adapting an existing work and doing an original work are two very different things, and some people are great at one, not so great at the other. Anyway, so that's the end of The Outsider, and
Stephen
I know
King's
most of
properties have a pretty 50-50
Yep.
track record as far as adaptations go. You've got the really, really good ones, Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, but then you've got your Dark Tower and that one with the alien invasion, the Moss.
But they've made some good one. Well, there was the one the Under the Dome that was awful on CBS. And
I was interested in that show for a while. I
watched most of the first season.
Under the
There's
Dome.
more than one season.
Yeah, there were 2 seasons.
There
Under
was
the
3.
Dome.
3, really? Wow.
There were
Well, I
3.
stopped after the first one. So.
I
Under
own
the
the
Dome
first 2. I've never seen the second season. I just never really got around to it.
Under the Dome would have been a much better The Simpsons movie spinoff.
I knew the joke was coming. I knew it was coming.
Spider-Pig.
Perfect for our current situation, The Mist and Andromeda Strain.
Yeah,
Actually,
Sorry, not Andromeda Strain. Well, The Stand. That's it.
The Stand.
Outbreak.
The Stand is being remade yet again right now as we speak, although it's probably put on hold because of the coronavirus. But eventually, we're going to get yet another adaptation of The Stand. I've never been satisfied with any of them. Some have been better than others. How many of them been? 4, 3? I don't know. I lost track. But more than one.
The Shining Stephen King?
Shining is Stephen King, yes.
Okay. Another topical one.
Yeah, indeed. Cabin fever. The adaptation of his very long book, 11/23/63, or 11/22/63, which is about time traveler goes back to try to prevent the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Actually, it was a really great book. I haven't read that. I'm not a big horror fan, so I haven't read a lot of Stephen King. I have read The Stand, which I really liked. I read 11/22/63. And Hulu actually did a pretty decent adaptation of it, starring, who was it? It was James Franco. I don't know, like 2 or 3 years ago. So it sounds like, oh, and then of course, well, inspired by Stephen King, there was the series that was also on Hulu that is escaping my memory at the moment. I raved about it. Oh, Castle Rock. And it's also been a pretty good Stephen King. Well, it's not really an adaptation, but it's set in his world. So they did a good job with that. Anyway, so enough Stephen King. Let's move to Star Wars, shall we? So in our latest discovery about the Rise of Skywalker, courtesy of the official novelization of the movie, was news about what ends up happening to Rey Skywalker after the end of the movie. And apparently the novelization goes on to explain that she essentially goes off on her own adventures. She doesn't stay on Tatooine, which I think is where we left her at the end of Rise of Skywalker. She didn't stay. A lot of people assume she stayed. She's actually going off to do, I don't know, whatever it is Skywalkers do. But apparently we won't see her in any movies in the future. But what did you all think of that final fate, or the final fate of Rey at the end of the novelization?
What is the final fate? So
she gallivants off to more adventures.
Oh, on her own?
Yeah.
I suppose it's fitting. Rey wasn't exactly one for, large organizations, and I don't think she'd be the type to train a whole new generation of Jedi. She's very much a lone wolf with a pack of friends.
Yeah.
So is this novelization admitting that that both Luke and Leia have trained the wrong person to be a Jedi?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Apparently, in the novelization, the Force ghosts of Luke and Leia both appear to encourage her to move forward. So, I guess they're okay with how she turned out.
I mean, trying to start the Jedi Order all over again worked so well for Luke.
Well, for the longest time, I and not just me, other people have made this observation too. The Jedi kind of turn out to be sort of galactic assholes. I mean, noble assholes, but what's that, Travis?
Just like the Federation.
Just like the Federation.
Yep. Say Eric voice. Just like the Federation.
I'd say that the Jedi are more like gin than root beer.
I think it's a problem. To me, it sounds like something that's going to become a problem. Specifically because we have we've been railed on for like the past two movies that you don't understand the Force this way or that. The Force is all about balance this and balance that and overcorrecting this and overcorrect. Okay, so what happens with Rey being gone? Finn only kind of knowing he's a Jedi or has that kind of power. What happens when the next dude comes along that has Sith powers and takes over the galaxy?
Well, apparently it all goes to hell as usual.
Wait, Finn's Force sensitive?
Yes.
That was in the novelization as well?
That was in the movie.
It never said he was Force sensitive. He just wielded a
They-
lightsaber
they-
for a brief period.
They implied it towards the end after the big climactic battle. Something, and apparently that's the thing in the movie when he tells Rey, "I have something really important to tell you." That's apparently what he was going to tell her, that he thought he was, could use.
Well,
the Force,
okay,
and
there
the
was like
Force.
there was like that scene where Ray got hurt somewhere else, and Finn goes Ray for no fucking reason in the next scene.
It was when they were sinking into that underground cavern.
No, that's him wanting to tell her something important. There's another scene in another movie entirely where Ray gets injured and like off on another planet entirely. Finn just like looks up at the sky and goes Ray.
Realizes it. Yeah.
Like he knows she's been hurt.
I missed that entirely.
Yeah, it happened.
But presumably, at the end of Rise of Skywalker, the Sith are dead and done. Palpatine's dead. He has no successors. The Sith Eternal are dead, and every last one of those reused Star Destroyers are destroyed and stuck.
One hopes.
Never underestimate the power of the dark side of the Force to create a new person craving for power.
Oh, there's always going to be someone craving for power.
Yeah,
and there's nobody to combat that.
There's Rey and her band of merry adventurers.
There's the stable boy who could use the Force to move brooms.
A good talent if you're, tired of pushing brooms.
That was the implication I got from Last Jedi, is that there are other Force-sensitive kids in the universe. They'll learn their powers and rise to become new Knights of Justice, whatever they decide to be called.
Or they'll become the Magician's Apprentice.
Of course, brooms. Yeah. So speaking of Rey, our next topic is still about Rey, and that is the new season of Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures cartoons, which tells sort of kid versions of the stories, of the Star Wars stories. And now in their new season, they are turning their attention to the latest trilogy. It's labeled Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures, Rey and Friends versus the First Order. And they have cute little, there's a trailer on YouTube, which is in our Trello on this, so you can watch to see how it goes. But it has Rey and Finn and Poe and BB-8 and God knows who else in it in cartoon form. So Rey is living on television, apparently, which is maybe the best place for Star Wars to live for a while.
I really, really like the Galaxy of Adventures series. It kind of encapsulates some of the best moments of the previous movies, and it really shows them in a very pure way. I love animation. I think more things should be animated instead of trying to shoehorn a bunch of live-action remakes, Disney. So I get a lot out of the Galaxy of Adventures cartoons. And it always annoys me when I see it shared on YouTube, on Facebook as, hey, look, Star Wars anime. It's not anime.
Indeed. Here's a quick snippet of the trailer for it, so you can get a sense of what the animation, and yeah, it doesn't look like anime at all.
Hey, look, it's anime.
It reminds me of Big Hero.
Oh, look, it's a dark BB-8.
It reminds me of Gendy Tartakovsky's kind of style of animation.
Yeah.
The
It reminds me
girls and Samurai Jack.
It does. It's very Samurai Jack.
I'd say it looks more similar to Big Hero 6, the series.
Except with traditional animation rather than CG.
Right.
I mean, like, Big Hero 6 is traditional animation.
Big Hero 6 was CG.
It was
the series.
It was
not
3.
Oh, okay.
Right. I haven't watched the series. Anyway, so
I haven't
that's
seen
what
either.
Rey
so
and Friends versus the First Order looks like. And apparently Kylo Ren does make an appearance in it.
Well, he needs to.
Of course, because who else says First Order more than Kylo Ren?
Maybe we'll actually see more of the Knights of Ren in action.
that clone of Emperor Palpatine.
Oy.
Snoke.
Snoke, the
Yeah.
most impotent evil overlord ever.
Really, he was the worst. Okay, any final Star Wars thoughts before we move to a different franchise?
No thoughts for Star Wars, but you were talking about anime, Ross. This is actually kind of a big thing, and I forgot to add it to our list. Patreon has gone on a purging spree of artists who draw in a quote-unquote Japanese style because there are concerns over whether or not their art, the anime style of art is or could be considered child pornography.
Huh?
I don't get it either, but Patreon has started banning a whole bunch of artists who draw in anime style because these characters, even though they are not nude, a vast majority of the people who have been banned aren't not safe for work artists, are drawing characters in the style, and Patreon itself is considering these characters underage, quote unquote.
The
So
reason this might be
these are SFW artists?
Some of the vast majority of them, yes.
I can understand the NSFW artists because, yeah, some of those characters, they're
You're a little on the. Yeah, I've seen some of that stuff, but
I'm pasting a link in the chat if you want to check out a story about it.
But yeah, there's also PayPal is stopping anyone that's collecting donations through that route too, if it's for any type of artwork like that, and if it's for modeling online pornography sites, are stopping it.
Yeah, it was something that I thought was, because it's like I don't understand if you really understand the implications of this, Patreon. What you're doing is kind of racist. You're blocking an entire art style under the assumption that it is underage. So
I don't know if that's racist per se.
It's not
Well,
really
because
racist.
it's specifically associated with the culture of one country.
Well, the reason why I could kind of see why they might do this, and that's because a lot of anime is very much centered on people who are in their early teens. And I mean, this could be the fact that the age of consent in Japan is much lower than it is here. And so naturally there's going to be a lot of people who will probably take a little bit of an interest in this in a not very good way.
well, sure.
I'd imagine Patreon is just kind of trying to crack down on that rather than.
And it's not the first time Patreon has done a purge of sorts either.
True.
They were doing a huge crackdown a couple months ago on content that is, although fantasy, of dubious consent. If anything that is implied non-consensual.
But this is much more broad of a crackdown, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it.
Because it's not only is it partly what you're talking about, Travis. The reason that a lot of anime depiction is of teen and young adult stuff is because of the culture in Japan. You see so many slice of life anime that deals with high school life and all that kind of stuff, and that's because the culture of Japan looks at that time as the last freedom of a person growing up in Japan, the last time that they're able to actually do stuff before they're formally, I don't want to say indoctrinated, but kind of formally introduced into the corporate job market that is the meat grinder of of Japan's job market.
That is the soul crusher of the world.
No.
We talk about
Is-
population depreciation in the U.S. It's even worse there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All you
they're-
gotta do is show them a music video of Pink Floyd's "Another Brick in the Wall," and they'll revolt.
all right, all right. I concede your point on Pink Floyd, but you can also have Pink Floyd and Gilbert and Sullivan.
I don't. Was that even in the early?
Oh, I think we might have been talking about that before
That
we
was
started.
pre-show,
So,
yeah.
folks at home, sorry, referring to a pre-show
In-show.
conversation.
Well, it wasn't entirely pre-show. If you were here before when the stream started, you were in on that conversation. That's why you should be here for the live show.
You should watch us streaming live. You get to see some stuff that other people don't really get to see all the time.
That's true.
especially,
A lot of
especially
hacking and coughing.
show. A lot of off-camera stuff.
Gotta
And
get rid of
all
that
the
one
gratuitous nudity.
Oh yeah, all of it.
Every last bit of skin.
Most of it is
there-
index.
Most
It's,
well,
it's the blue eyes.
half of it is me. The other half is just Sean.
Yeah,
As
that's
much
true.
As much as we make fun of him for not wearing pants, we do
He
have
really
to force him to
doesn't.
put. We do have to force him to put on underwear.
That's
This
true.
week, a very special Super Geeks podcast. We talk about nudity in the crew.
Well,
We
we're going to get to the last 2 weeks we have had internet pornography stories that we've covered on the podcast, and we don't have quite the same thing this week, but close, which we'll get to in just a second. Just a quick riff on the latest news about Lost in Space. For those of you who are Lost in Space fans on Netflix, its first 2 seasons have been very well received critically and by viewers. And of course, there is going to be a 3rd season, but the downside is that is the last season. The creators tell Netflix that they had only ever conceived of 3 seasons, and that's what they're sticking with. So when it's over, it's going to be over, folks.
Sticking to
Too
their
bad.
guns, at least.
Too
What's
bad, but better that than it running on too long and kind of fizzling out. Better it end on a high note than a meh.
Yeah.
I think you only tell that story so many
Avatar:
ways.
The Last Airbender. 3 seasons of excellence.
Hey, they managed to take the bones of the original and build something fantastic off of it.
I mean, you know,
And then it grew into Korra, which was also similarly well received.
I haven't seen Korra. I can't say I've seen the entirety of Lost in Space. I started the series and then just kind of drifted away from it. It was getting some emotional reactions out of me, so the show was doing something right. And if it's doing this, it's getting its 3rd season, and if it goes all out, I only applaud them for it. So
Yeah, we'll see.
This,
But
I really hope that this 3rd season is a back and forth and not just focusing on one story or the other. Because if you remember at the end of season 2, we have the split of the family.
right.
And I really hope this 3rd season
spoilers.
is a back and forth.
Yeah. Well, I hope so too. I mean, apparently it's all planned out, so we'll see. But
I'd be
I can't wait.
What they do.
Yeah, I'll be bummed it's the last one, but I'm happy it's coming back for a 3rd one. So, but that's an instance of the creators pulling the plugs themselves rather than Netflix for reasons like viewership. So back to porn. Well, not really porn this week, but it's sort of porn adjacent. News that the Japanese have come up with the first touchable hologram, the first hologram you can touch. You want to tell us a bit about that, Ross?
Sure, let me bring it up.
I happen to find this
I mean,
one.
not ready.
I didn't
Okay.
link the story, so I'm rolling with it.
They created hard light.
Scientists in Japan have created the first.
Laugh here.
touchable hologram, quote unquote, enabling users to experience the illusion of touching objects that aren't really there. The Haptoclone, created by haptic researchers from the University of Tokyo's Department of Complexity, Science, and Engineering,
You
consists
gotta
of two
love a
boxes.
department like that.
Yeah. Consists of two boxes, one containing an object and the other displaying the hologram of it. When the human hand comes into contact with the 3D image in the second box, the hologram emits an ultrasonic radiation pressure, making the user feel they're actually touching the object. Meanwhile, special aerial imaging panels act like a kind of mirror, making the hologram of the hand appear visually in the other box so it can interact with the original object. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
The Haptoclone.
it's still very, very, very early. It's just a small box, but that reciprocal projection is a very interesting idea that I hadn't seen before. It's not quite close to holodeck level. We're not about to bang any Orion slave girls anytime soon, but
It always comes back to that, doesn't it?
well, of course it does.
Of course it does. Well, it's interesting for those of you who have phones that have haptic feedback on it. It's sort of the same principle that pressing on something elicits a response that you can feel on your fingers. I'm curious in seeing if all it does is just sort of have you feel like you're touching something, or if it can transmit something as subtle as texture.
I mean, I guess maybe I am. Am I the only one worried that it says ultrasonic radiation?
That's sound waves.
Yeah. Like there's lots of things that are radiation that are perfectly fine. Light, for example.
Radio waves.
Radio
Well,
waves.
unless you're talking about ultraviolet.
Radio waves.
Right.
But
Sorry,
yeah, that's
I'm
just
singing Roger Waters.
that's just high frequency sound. That's all that is.
Okay.
Like feeling the hum of a woofer. Turned up all the way.
I mean,
I told you no porn, Ross. Oh wait, you're talking about something else.
he's
Well,
talking
you
about
know,
a
you like
dog.
numbers, but that's okay.
Guys,
Oh,
have
even
this-
worse than porn. He's talking about dogs. Ew, Ross.
or furries. I could be talking about furries.
For stereo speakers, as
Yeah.
it were. Okay. So that's the latest in the porn adjacent news on the Real Super Geeks. We'll see what happens in the future with haptoclones. Okay.
The article goes on to postulate about communication, so a way of reaching out and touching someone distant to give you a sense of.
Wow. Okay, that brings back some slogans.
Yep. AT&T wasn't it?
That could
Reach
be very
out and
important
touch
graphics.
Someone.
Bono.
Yep.
You-
That's,
now you can really slap someone across the.
that was from back in the day where it cost real money to call someone long distance.
That was back in the day whenever you had to pay just to dial into the internet.
Yeah. Wow. That seems so weird.
Unless you had net zero.
Well, yeah, but wasn't that like adware kind of?
It had an ad bar that was up, but otherwise
Yeah.
unobtrusive.
But you could get a hack and disable all of that.
My ISP was Netscape.
Oh wow.
I remember that.
Just to let you know, that's how in the middle of BFE I live.
Holy shit, I remember Netscape. We had that at school. It was, oh my God, it was horrible. My original ISP was, I had AOL for a little bit, and then we went to MSN, because that's how I got into the Star Trek chat, Starfleet Lounge, and all that way back in the day when the MSN used to host it. And after that, everything was kind of multiplied. Yeah. God, they dial-up seems so distant now, don't they?
Yes, they do. But let's move our eyes to the future, sort of, as our favorite non-Star Trek show, The Orville, which
It's
which is moving over to Hulu at some unspecified date, but a long time from now, for its third season. Not renewed on Fox, but moved over to its adjacent Hulu property. But in the meantime, apparently Dark Horse Comics is going to be publishing an Orville comic that they're calling Season 2.5. So between what we saw in the last season that was on air and what will come in the next season, whenever that happens on Hulu, any thoughts, hopes, dreams, or comments on the Orville comic?
Well, hopefully
Well-
it'll explain the refit.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not holding my breath on this one. What's that, Travis?
I'm mixed as it is when it comes to the Orville. I find a lot of it to be very passable. I mean, it definitely has its high notes. Like I in particular really, really enjoyed the episode "Lasting Impression," the one where Gordon Malloy develops feelings for the hologram. Like I thought.
Oh yeah, that was actually a really good episode.
Yeah, it was.
I really liked it. It reminded me a bit of my own long distance relationship with my girlfriend in some ways.
Was
I
she
was
a
like,
hologram?
No, she's not a hologram.
But her name was Jim.
Just like we talk through the phone every day, so it was very much when I was like, man, I can kind of relate to what's going on here in a way. But I mean, it went in a way that I don't really have any struggle with. I mean, like, there's nothing I would change about her in the way that Gordon Malloy changed this girl. But I mean, like, back to my original point, just a lot of the Orville is just very for me. I get why so many people like it, and I get that it's definitely the cup of tea that a lot of Star Trek nostalgia Trekkies really want right now from current Star Trek, and I have no quarrel with that. Like, if this is more their cup of tea, all for it.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Though, I just, like, I don't care for Seth MacFarlane's approach to humor on television. I doubt I'm going to care even less for a comic form of it.
It did get a little predictable after a little while. Whenever you saw a Bortus Central episode, you thought, oh, I know what kind of episode this is going to be about.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's the Mocklins. Social justice time.
But I will say, like, in Lasting Impressions, the Bortus side plot was priceless.
Yes,
Oh,
it
I was
was.
Cigarettes, man. I was laughing hard.
Yeah, we'll
cigarette
see.
Here,
I mean,
cigarette there. Here's a pillow. Nothing but cigarettes. Oops,
Yeah.
all cigarettes.
Yeah, that was cute.
That sounds like
Yeah.
a cereal from the
In the-
1940s. Oops, all cigarettes.
In the game that I'm beta testing, Orville Interactive, you can actually replicate the cigarettes from that episode. It's hilarious. You can replicate 500 of them too.
Well, anyone planning on buying the book or the comic,
No.
rather? Probably me neither. All of the splash page that I've seen, the artwork looked pretty good, but you know,
I was really disappointed with the last season of the Orville, simply because they decided to go the tropey route with the with the robotic race.
yeah.
Sorry, I was really hoping that they'd do something a little different, but and it seemed like they would for a second, and then nope, evil robots.
Yeah, evil robots.
Oops,
I did
evil,
love
evil robots.
going back to Doctor Who for a second. I did love that little debate the Master had with the head Cyberman, and he said, "Your big plan is to turn yourselves into robots, evil robots." It's like that's your plan. It's like it does make it seem pretty stupid. Anyway, I don't know what you thought about that, son, but I thought that was a kind of a cute moment in that.
That was probably the only redeeming conversation of the Master for like this entire season.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. All right, let's wind down the episode. We have our final segment. What are we watching? And who would like to start us off today? I'm going to ask you, son.
Okay, so I just suddenly fell into the Jerry Anderson YouTube channel. it is basically it's built on the trying to think of what I'm trying to say here. Jerry Anderson Productions, the creative mind behind Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, all that kind of stuff. The production company itself lives on through his wife and his son, who have a YouTube channel kind of explaining these series and others like Stingray, and showcasing the technology and all that kind of stuff behind the not behind the production of the thing, but the production of the series, and also the people who had made the series themselves. And it's been fascinating just to watch all these different things. They have primer episodes for the different series too, so you can get like a decent understanding of what is going on in a series, what and how the audiences reacted to it, and how the series lives on. I'm absolutely in love because I love my Thunderbirds.
I loved them as a kid, and of course there was the Thunderbirds live action movie, which was
directed by Jonathan
Frakes. Yeah,
which I enjoyed.
I enjoyed too. Actually,
that last night. I watched it last night because I was watching all the Thunderbird stuff. So that might turn around segment. But yeah, I actually watched that when they got in chat earlier today. Like, hey, look, I'm Frakes for this.
Interesting to note, it was just as much of a flop as the other Thunderbird movies.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't remember. I mean, I remember I saw it, but I didn't remember like how it did.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't really go and see Thunderbirds or Thunderbird 6. It did decent, but it was considered an industry flop, and the same was true with the Thunderbirds movie Frakes directed.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that was one of the big things about Star Trek, is that Frakes came from Thunderbirds as a background and knew nothing about Star Trek.
Well, it's a big circle, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anything else you've been watching this week, son?
I've come to the conclusion that I keep watching Pluto TV at the exact same time, because
you want your old Doctor Who fix.
Every time I come back to Doctor Who, it's the exact same thing I was watching like 3 days ago, and I'm like, what?
It just keeps going. Just keeps going.
I mean, it's like there's a whole catalog of Doctor Who. Why am I stumbling upon Tom Baker and
because it's Pluto TV.
Like, there's more than just 2 doctors, and all I have ever seen has been John Pertwee and Tom Baker.
That might be all that they have a license to show.
But that's the thing. They're streaming it from BritBox. They have a license with BritBox to show from BritBox.
Might just be the bad luck of whenever you're catching it.
Could be.
That could be.
I only had a license to share those too, because like on Amazon, like they can only sometimes share only certain seasons of the show at a time.
Okay, let's move on to our next person. Travis, what have you been watching this week?
I've got a few things. I guess the first thing that is notable that I've been watching is that we have watched a couple more episodes of the second season of Breaking Bad. I have now officially been introduced to Saul.
Aha!
He has the craziest commercial ever.
Yeah, he's famous for it.
Oh, man. One of the things I actually have not been mentioning in this little thing, every Thursday before we watch Star Trek Picard, we actually watch an episode of the classic Twilight Zone. And this week we watched Nick of Time, which stars a very, very young William Shatner. And he is obsessed with this fortune teller box that you insert a penny in, and you ask it a yes or no question, and it gives you one of those, like, it doesn't tell you enough, but it tells you enough answers. If that makes sense. Like, you fill in your own blanks here. Today I watched about 10 minutes of Stephen King's The Mist, the series, not the movie. I'm going to be watching the movie. I was curious about the series, and I'm no longer curious because it was some of the stupidest dialogue I've ever heard. There were a couple other things I've been watching.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about an adaptation of the game Mist, not
Oh,
an
if
adaptation of
only.
Stephen King.
This is Stephen King's The Mist. It's a series like based on the story that this movie is based off of, but it was just like, oh, the dialogue was just, it was painful. It was painful. Just like, you had this like dark and broody kid, and they're going to this party, like, well, you know, these guys are just a bunch of superficial assholes, right? It's like, good God, who fucking talks like this? I mean, like, I'm sure there are a few people, but it was just terrible. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say now. I just finished the first arc of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. The first arc with the Bad Batch has concluded, and this latest episode was absolutely jaw-dropping at times. Oh, I'm going to be putting up a review of it, and I hope
So
I am somewhat.
On a scale,
What?
on a scale of 1 to Hunchback of Notre Dame, how visually stunning was it?
Visually stunning? You mean the Clone Wars?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Clone Wars animation. I find it charming. I give it a 7, but a lot of people don't care for that. So, the last thing I've been watching, I was watching a lot of this today. I've been watching this series on and off. It's a series called Siren, and I've been watching it on Hulu, and it's very much a very weird take on siren / mermaid stories. It's like a horror, not really horror.
Oh, I think that's actually originally a freeform show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Hulu advertises that each episode. I am one episode away from completing the first season, and it's been fun. I mean, like, I can't really. It's hard to describe exactly what the show is about because it's very much a marine biologist show about them just helping these mermaids that they've discovered, basically, and if they just tell a really good story, I guess. I'm invested enough and to say, like, hey, I'm watching until, I've got one more episode of the first season. I'll probably check out the second season. So
it's basically a series that riffs off of the 80s movie.
No, not at all.
But yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Okay. Ross, what have you been watching this week?
Let's see. Well, the ladies' marathon of Glee continues.
Oh, yes.
Yep, that's
what season are you into?
I think it's their senior year. So I think 4.
Okay.
Probably 4. A lot of good music. We just started season 4, I believe, and we both sat down for the entirety of the Rocky Horrors episode.
Yeah.
Season. It's really weird seeing Grant Gustin, in the show as the asshole from the prep school.
The rival prep school.
He looks exactly the same as he does in The Flash. The guy's
he does not age. But he made a great villain in Glee, I thought.
Oh, he made such a great asshole.
Yeah, I mean, you really liked him as an asshole, I guess.
Yeah, and then you see that in The Flash is this innocent kind of geek who's a polar opposite of this other character. It's so weird.
My daughter's mom was a big fan of Glee, and when she saw The Flash and saw who it was, she's like, oh, wait a minute. Is he the bad guy? Wait a minute, he's not the bad guy? Why is he not the bad guy?
Because he's an actor.
The little one has been back and forth between Bob the Builder and Tayo the Little Bus.
I don't know that one. I do know Bob the Builder.
It's a Korean CG animated series about a bunch of childlike buses as they have adventures and misadventures.
Those are my
in the
favorite
middle.
kind of buses.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
childlike ones.
Learning lessons and making friends and all of that.
course.
As for me, the YouTube series continued. Oxhorn showcased the next two endings for Fallout 4's expansion Far Harbor, where you side against the children of Adam and convince them to blow themselves up with a nuke because that's their religion.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very, very Planet of the Apes of them.
It's
Very
Fallout.
Very, very
They
Fallout.
worship radiation. The Great Division is what they all strive for. So yeah, that's what they get for making a home out of an old nuclear submarine that's stuck inside an underground hangar.
There you go.
Yeah, and I also finished the original BattleTech cartoon. Oh boy, that thing was campy but fun. And then there's this little gem right here.
What is this? Robot chicken?
Oh, okay. Mech Warrior stuff. We can't hear anything, Ross.
Can't hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to click the little
you
thing that
have
says
to
share
share
computer
sound.
sound.
What do I do?
Click the audio
Uh,
thing at the bottom.
When you select which window you're going to show, on the lower left of that selection window, there's a little checkbox that says share computer sound.
There we go. Well, that ruins the whole. Anyway.
There we go.
Abfeuerungspanzer, der HQ. Status frei. Kommen. Hier Friedrich 1. Keiner weiß, dass wir hier sind. Ich bin auf grüner gewesen. Die Aufklärung läuft hervorragend.
Hier Friedrich 2. Ich habe den Überflutgenerator zerstört. Wir sind jetzt komplett unsichtbar. Ich habe auch ein Waisenhaus in den Fluss getreten. Fühle mich aber nicht schuldig. Es war eine strategische Falle.
Friedrich 3 hier. Cockpit ab. Ich hab ihn in meinem Cockpit. Verstanden. Weitermachen mit Operation Ninja und denkt daran. Heimlichkeit ist optional.
That is so Mech Warrior, though.
Wow. Wow.
Like, we've killed all the enemies. We're stealthy now.
We are happy.
It is technically stealth if no one knows you were there, and no one will know you were there if everyone's dead.
Wow.
That is one approach.
That is
one
the
approach.
Steiner Scout. That is the Steiner Assault Squad by the Black Pants Legion.
Wow. Okay. I wish the subtitles weren't quite so gothic. They actually take time to read.
Well, the fluff around the Steiners is that they're all Prussian and Holy Roman Empire kind of themed super space empire.
They take their goth seriously.
They sure do.
And they love their super heavy assault mechs.
Again, they take their goth seriously.
Yeah.
That's industrial goth.
Yeah, yeah.
Indeed. Justin, what have you been watching this week?
I've been watching the Thunderbirds animated, getting caught up on that. I actually watched the Thunderbirds movie 2004. It was all right. It wasn't the best, but it was okay. I actually started watching Star Trek Voyager again. Just going back to some of the episodes. I'm still in season 1 of it, and that's pretty much it. Oh,
all right.
And Avenue 5, of course, but yeah.
Wait, you've been watching the CGI Thunderbirds Are Go?
Yeah, the one on Amazon.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that. Well, for me, I have been I've been behind, so I caught up on the 4 episodes so far of this new season of Better Call Saul, which I think is the final season, or maybe it's the second to final season. Anyway, they're closing in on the end of Better Call Saul, and so some things are definitely stepping up. It is still a great show to watch. It's just so beautifully shot, and they know how to shoot that story. Breaking Bad, it's amazing how the profound effect it's had on other
they know
other
how
series.
to break bad.
Yeah, they know how to break
It
bad.
is I will say, the journey through Breaking Bad is one I'm very much enjoying for the first time.
Yeah, you will
gets
enjoy the rest of it too. And the rest of what I'm watching has been, a smattering of, sitcoms and stuff that isn't, science fiction related. I, inspired by this week's episode of Star Trek Picard, there are a couple of Borg related Voyager episodes that I decided to catch up on. So one of them was Unity. I forget the other one, but
Dark Frontier.
yes, that was it. Thank you. So just for context, I guess, but so that was kind of enjoyable. They're among the, I know a lot of people complain about the Borg episodes on Voyager, but compared with the rest of the episodes of Voyager, they tended to be, the stakes were a little higher and interesting. So that's my week. And apparently that was yours.
How we're going to escape this death-defying situation today with no resources. Oh, okay, we just do this. That's Voyager.
My thoughts on Voyager are something for another time.
Okay, well, look forward to listing those. For folks at home, thank you for joining us this week. We will be back next week, same time, same channel. Please don't miss our Star Trek Picard after show, Make It So, which we record on Friday nights and release on Saturdays.
And stream live on Twitch. TV, Live, Love, Play.
Live, love, play.
Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe to this show, and and the other one too. And we'll see you next week. As we on Picard, we're going into the 2-part season finale, so things look to be exciting on that one. So we'll be here to talk about it then. All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for all your wisdom, and see you next week.
Black alert.
I'm watching.